Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, it is a great pleasure to be here today with my accompanist, Glenn Pearson, to talk to you about how I found my whistle. I whistle because it brings joy to people. It brings joy to me. It's so wonderful to be able to whistle a song rather than just have to think about it. On the way here this morning, I was walking down the block whistling Beethoven's Third Symphony. It was just a cool thing. But it's also, and this is what I just love so passionately about it, is that it is a key. It is a key that gives me entree into people's lives and their hearts in totally unexpected ways. So I started whistling when I was 5 years old, a mere 45 years ago. My father loved to whistle Gilbert and Sullivan songs around the house, so I picked it up from him. When I was 13 to 16, I had a paper route, so for every day, I'd whistle for 2 hours. My legs were busy pedaling, and my brain and my lips were busy producing music. Now, back then, it was a volume situation because my customers would say, "I heard you coming." They never said anything. They never said anything about whether it was good. And then in college, and when I first came to Washington in the mid-1980s, I got into blues and jazz, so I started whistling at open mic nights. And I'd always freak out the guy who was running the gig. I'd go up to him, and over the din of the music, he would say, "What do you play?" And I'd say, "I whistle." And he'd say, "You wrestle?" And I'd say, "No, I whistle." Like that. He kind of furrowed brow, kind of back of the line, buddy. But my big break came in 1992. I was in the Shenandoah National Park, whistling merrily along, of course, with a bunch of buddies. And a friend of a friend said, "Hey, you're really good. You should do something with that." And I said, "Well, I'd seen someone on The Tonight Show years ago, but I don't know anything about it." Now, of course, this is pre-internet. So the mutual friend said, "If it exists, I will find it." So she went to a library, found a book, remember those, of national events, and sure enough, there it was, the National Whistlers Convention. So I sign up, I rehearse for 6 months. I go to this microscopic town in North Carolina called Lewisburg and compete in the 20th Annual Whistlers Convention. And much to my shock, I actually won a prize. That was just an amazing experience, and it showed me that there was hope for me. And then for 9 years, I competed, and I ended up winning the international championship 4 times. It has unleashed this fascinating series of experiences. And just last year, I was inducted into the International Whistlers Hall of Fame. You mean you've all been there? Okay, no. It's an ephemeral kind of thing that they whip out at the competition itself. Now, Bing Crosby is in the Hall of Fame, and there are others, all of whom you've heard of, I'm sure. Okay. So it's been a great gift, but as you can imagine, to quote the Grateful Dead, what a long, strange trip it's been. So over the past 25 years, I've whistled for the president in the Oval Office. I've been on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. I whistled in a job interview at a federal agency. And despite that, I got the job. I've whistled with the National Symphony in front of 60,000 people at the U.S. Capitol. And the thing that warms my heart the most is whistling Happy Birthday for people. I now whistle 350 happy birthdays a year. And as you can imagine, it is a logistical challenge. So there I was, Turkish Air. We have just left the gate. We are in a jumbo jet rumbling towards the runway to go to Hong Kong. My cell phone rings. My wife says, "Have you whistled for Becky yet?" I'm like, "We're going to Hong Kong. I'm on a plane." She's like, "If you like date night, you better whistle for Becky." So I take a quick scan around. There is no flight attendant around. I run to the restroom. I speed dial Becky. There is no time for chit-chat. Thank God I got her voicemail. And deliver the serenade, flush for effect. Get back to my seat, tragedy narrowly averted. Date night lives on. I love it. Now, is there anyone here celebrating their birthday today? I'm hoping. One person. Say, who is it? Tony! I'm glad you were born. I'm going to serenade you right now. Okay. And I always end every refrain of Happy Birthday with, I'm glad you were born. So from one unusual venue, an airplane restroom, to another, the Oval Office. So in 2001, I was the White House budget spokesman, and my boss calls me into his office one day and says, in 15 minutes, we're going to the Oval Office to whistle for the president. Well, of course. I mean, so he said, get your jacket, let's go. So we went over from OMB across to the West Wing, and on the way there, Mitch Daniels, who was in the president's cabinet at the time, says, listen, I want to whistle with you. He's trying to get muscle in on my gig. And says, let's do dueling banjos. I said, sounds good to me. All right, so we get to the Oval Office. I had never met the president. I had never been in the Oval Office. I walk in, and Bush is leaning back in his chair, feet on the desk, unlit cigar in his hand. He jumps up and says, you're a whistler. You need some water? You sit, you stand? How'd you get started? Dude, okay. And I said, Mr. President, nice to meet you. I'm moist and puckered. I'm ready to go. Okay. All right, so we chit-chat for a few moments. And I say, what kind of music do you like? And he says, country western. And I'm like, oh, man. That's not high on my repertoire list. So I said, how about the Lone Ranger song? And he's like, perfect. I did not have the heart to tell him it's an Italian opera. All right, so then we jibber-jabber for a few more minutes. And then I issued the duel. All right. That was great. Thank you. I got to tell you who this guy is. I wish he were in the Oval Office with me that day, but he wasn't. I had Mitch instead. This is Glenn Donnell, and he is a violinist with the National Symphony Orchestra. Awesome, Glenn. Thanks, buddy. Now, from one unusual presidential gig to another, I now work at the Carlyle Group, which is an investment firm here in Washington. And a year ago, my boss calls me up and says, "I need you to whistle for the president of the Bank of China tomorrow morning." I'm like, "Sure, no problem." I said, "I'll do a few standards." And he said, No. I need you to whistle his favorite song." I'm thinking, oh, I should have studied Chinese history or something, And he said, "The theme song to Titanic." And I said, "Come on." I said, "I do not know that song." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be fine." You got 12 hours. I'll see you at 9 tomorrow morning. So I go into panic mode. I fire up YouTube, and I rehearse for an hour that night, at 2 hours the next morning. And I'm trying to turn notes into music because this dude apparently loves this song. So 15 minutes to spare, I jump in a cab. I get to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, where the event was taking place. And I walk into this rather august room. There's around 50 senior Chinese executives there. And my boss calls the president over, calls me over, and then you got to picture it. It's consecutive translation. So my boss says, "This is Chris Ullman. He heads up communications at the Carlyle Group, and he's a 4-time international whistling champion, and he's going to whistle the theme song to Titanic for you." Now, of course, the president is completely until the interpreter gets to the word whistler, and then we got big eyes, and then Titanic, big smile. Okay. I thought, all right, there is hope. So I get in the groove, close my eyes. I start whistling, and suddenly I hear something. I think, that's not supposed to be part of the act. I open my eyes. The top banker in China, his eyes are closed. He is humming along with me, note for note. His hand is in the air. I'm serious. It is ecstasy. I mean, the whole time I'm thinking, don't screw this up. You're going to ruin this guy's life. I finish the song. He thanks me. And I talked before about the key. This was a key to that man's heart, that in any ordinary business setting, I would not have been able to touch him in that way. It is, to this day, the bizarrest thing I've ever done whistling, and just so warming to me. I want to end with a really personal and very special story. 9 years ago, I got a phone call from a woman named Kathy, and Kathy said, "My son Preston has very severe mental and physical challenges. He can't speak, but he loves whistling, and he loves to whistle. Would you sign your CD for him and send it to us for his 16th birthday?" And I'd say, "Of course, I'd love to." And then I said, "Well, when's his birthday? I'll call." So around a month or so later, I called on Preston's 16th birthday. And though we couldn't talk to each other, I did hear a little gentle whistle on the other side of the phone. And it really touched me. So the next year I call up on his 17th birthday, and Kathy's like even more surprised because I actually stayed engaged. And then on his 18th birthday, she called me and said, "Will you come to his special needs school and whistle for his birthday, which is also his graduation ceremony?" I was like, "I'd be delighted to." So I entered physically Preston's world for the first time, and there were hugs all around, even though we had never met before. And it was really special experience for me. Preston and his friends have very serious physical and developmental challenges that are just completely foreign to me. And even though the school was just 3 miles from my house, I'd never even heard of it. So the whistling enabled me to enter his world. And it helped me better understand, and from a different perspective, the joys and challenges that people face in life. And it's, on one hand, joyous, it's humbling. And when I say humbling, it is not about feeling sorry for people. It is about just viewing life through their lens. And it really has helped me to better understand the gift of that life truly is, and what true unconditional love is. And Preston's father, Craig, is here today, and I just want to thank you, Craig, and your family for all you've done for me. So I'm going to wrap it up. Back to the Oval Office for a moment. So I'd whistle a few songs, and the president said, well, do another. And I said, I don't want to overdo it. And he said, oh, don't worry, I'll let you know when I've had enough. I like, yeah. He said, do us a great song to get us going for the day. And this is that song. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Glenn Pearson. Thank you very much. Now, go find your whistle. God bless you all. Thank you.